So here I'm just going to run through a quick little introduction to quadratics. That's the start of the playlist. We're going to go over quickly what a quadratic is and a few key features of their graphs. So we're not going to do anything mathematical in this video, we're just going to talk a bit. So first of all, then, what is a quadratic? Well, a quadratic is either an expression or an equation in which the highest power of x, or any other variable that we're using, is 2. So anything where the highest power of your variable is 2, so they are of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Now if we've got an equal sign in there, say y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, then we're dealing with an equation. If there's no equal sign in there at all, then it's just an expression. So a is not allowed to equal 0. If a was equal to 0, we would have 0x squareds in our expression or equation, and thus it wouldn't be a quadratic. B and C, though, can equal any number. They can equal 0. We don't need an x term. We don't need a number term at the end. All that we need for our beast to be a quadratic, all that we need is to have our highest power of 2. We need that x squared term. So let's check out their graphs. And so we've got two forms of their graphs really at GCSE. So on the left, we've got what I call the happy quadratic. I call it happy because it looks like a smile. So we get a happy quadratic if a is greater than 0, or in other words, if we have a positive x squared term, then that is going to give us this happy quadratic. Whereas on the right, we also sometimes get unhappy quadratics, and we get these when a is less than 0, or if the x squared term is negative, then we get this unhappy quadratic. Now the curve is called a parabola. That's the technical name for it. And these parabolas are symmetrical down their centre. So this line that cuts through their middle point is called either a line of symmetry, or we can get even more technical and call it an axis of symmetry. Now the point on the curve that this line goes through is quite an important one. So on a happy quadratic, it's called a minimum. It's called a minimum because it's the smallest value that the graph takes. Or on an unhappy quadratic, it's called the maximum. It's called the maximum because it's the biggest value that the graph will achieve. Now in general, this point is also called a vertex. It's called a stationary point, or it can be called a turning point of a graph as well. But it does differ in terms of minimum and maximum depending on the happiness of our quadratic. If it's happy, again, it's a minimum. If it's unhappy, then it's a maximum. But these bottom three names apply to that point, whether it's happy or unhappy. It's always a vertex, it's always a stationary point, it's always a turning point. It's only the maximum and minimum that change depending on the happiness of the curve. So when we plot quadratics, if they cross the x-axis at all, then we call those points either solutions or roots. And we call them solutions because they are solutions to ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now there's three possibilities with quadratics. They'll either have two solutions, as the black parabola here. It crosses the x-axis twice, so it has two solutions or two roots. They might only hit the x-axis at one point, as the green parabola over here on the left. The vertex is lying on the x-axis. That's its only single solution. We also get quadratics that don't meet the x-axis at all, as the yellow one up on the right. If our parabola doesn't meet the x-axis, then there are no solutions to ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Now there are many different methods to find these solutions, and I will have videos on all of these methods, so check them out. Quadratics are a very, very big part of GCSE maths. And the last thing that I need to say about the graphs is that the y-intercept, so the point where the parabola crosses the y-axis, the value of that point on the y-axis is equal to c. So that's the same as straight lines. Y equals mx plus c. The y-intercept is given by the c. So say that we had a quadratic equation like x squared plus 3x plus 5, then the y-intercept would be 5. And the coordinates of that point would be 0, 5, because the x-coordinate on the y-axis is 0 everywhere. Okay guys, so that's an intro to quadratics. Be sure to check out the other videos because, like I said, quadratics are a very big part of GCSE maths. Cheers!